Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're back. And I hope you've been having fun with the coming home exercise, right? Where you've been making sure you're in your body. You have some checkpoints around that. And there's becoming a consciousness around am I here? Am I present? Am I looking out of my eyes or am I watching myself live, right? So today I want to take a look at emotion, right? The idea of emotion, right? And could it be possible that the true pure intention of that motion sensor were intended to be a little bit different, right? Now we understand, right, that this amazing system has many layers. Many humans have been utilizing a very tiny bit of what we are capable of, we know way back to the Great White Wizard. He was explaining to us what we were capable of, and you know, the theys, whoever they are, have been really trying to duplicate us forever. Right? We've got cars that drive themselves. We've got robots that do the work of jobs. We've got drones that fly themselves, right? And now we've got cloning. So, don't you think it's time for us to really dive in and learn? Like, what's possible? And what are we doing already that is enhancing or that can be grown from, and what are we doing from this reactionary space? That's our goal, right? So we've learned that the astral body is the energetic version of our physical body, right? And we've also learned that the astral body can separate from the physical body. And we've also learned that that astral body doesn't have to stay here, right? We've learned that, right? Now, the next level out is our auric field, right? Our energy field, our force field, so to speak, right? Now, this energetic field, our auric field, in its optimal state, should stretch out about 6 feet, right? And within that 6 feet, it's gathering information, right? It's gathering information that is funneling into your brain, right? Now, I usually see energy, right? I see energy, and I see our auric field, right? Moving in this gorgeous figure eight pattern that reminds me of what I see when I see the energy of music, right? And it's interesting that the conductors are always in that figure eight. Well, I see our energy moving out from our body in these figure eight patterns that wind in and out of each other, right? Now, science says that our human brain is taking in 400 billion bits of information every second. Every second. 400 billion bits of information, right? Our auric field is gathering, in its optimal state, is gathering information from our environment. It's funneling it into the human brain. And the human brain, right, is operating on approximately 100 bits. 100 bits. So how much of our environment are we not seeing? How much of our environment are we not interacting with, right? How much of our lives are built on commonalities, right? Commonalities. Because it stands to reason, right, that if we're operating on just this 100 bits, 400 billion bits is coming in. The brain is going to be taking every experience and connecting it back to something we already know, right? And often that's not a good something we already know, right? So each moment has a lens that we're looking through, right? Now, science says that a moment is every 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds, we are presented with a set of 4 to 6 alternate timelines, alternate choices, alternate sequence of events to choose from. So every 4 seconds, we are making a choice that is affecting outcome, right? How much of your life is operating unconsciously in these connections of looping backwards to commonality? And how much of your experience is true and current from this moment today, right? It's 400 billion bits, 100 bits, that's a huge discrepancy. That is a lot of information that is being discarded, right? Because we don't have the capacity, right? So I think of it as if we had this computer hardware, like this 1979 computer hardware. And we've got these 2020 computer programs coming in. Either this system is going to crash or it's going to reject the information, right? And it's going to operate within its own little structure of system that it's comfortable, that the hardware can support, right? Right. Okay, so these loops back have us living like, what is that? Like 95%, 98% of our life, 98% of those choices every 4 seconds are being made unconsciously. So we are reliving over and over again, in these same modes of action that are getting us nowhere because of this discrepancy between how we're interacting with that information, right? So we have to really, as I'm working with my clients, I really realize like how much of their life is being misinterpreted, right? How much of the generosity and love that is around them that is being misconstrued or is being seen through a lens of jadedness, right? And they're operating as if it weren't happening. So we have to understand that the stuff that is around us, there's goodness there too. We're just not programmed to receive it, right? What if that is true? What if our old programming is in the way and creating a lens over what is possible, right? Now, what I really want us to drink in is that, these systems we're creating as humans today all have this firewall. They all have a protection system. They all have sensors embedded within the system to direct their attention, right? to go ding ding, look over here, this is happening, right? This may not be good. It could possibly not be good. Or this is happening over here and this is amazing, right? We're talking this 400 billion bits of information. That's like Where's Waldo, right? And you got the little pictures at the bottom that shows you where your attention should be focused, right? Without that, you don't know what to look at, right? Yeah, think about that. Let that sink in, right? So could it be possible that this amazing system that we call you, that we call me, would have been created with some sort of firewall, some sort of system that would help us focus our attention, help us know when our system was getting breached? Could that be possible? So Buddhism, I love religion. I love those moments where science and religion meet, right? I have studied religions across the board, right? And one thing that has always stuck with me with Buddhism, right, is that they teach this emotion, they teach this detachment from emotion, right? Now, in the beginning, this was something that really ruffled me, and I think it's because, having PTSD, coming from all this trauma, and having myself so fragmented and severed, I felt detached from everything. So the idea of detaching from this emotion was instantly repelled, right? But the more I studied and the more I grew and the healthier I got, I was like, wait, right? Could that be possibly true on the quantum level for us to understand that maybe this what we have called emotion could have been intended to be motion sensors within our system to allow us to fish out the important information within that 400 billion bits, right? Could that be possible? Now, what we have to realize, again, back to the great white wizard who understood universal law to his core, is that he spoke of perfection, being able to fit through the eye of the needle, is equivalent to going back to the wonderment of childhood. Think about that, right? In reference to this idea of emotion, right? Back to the wonderment of childhood. That is a child walking forward into each moment of time with this set of 4 to 6 choices set in front of them. And these motion detectors are very clean, right? So they focus over here, they go, I don't like that. They throw a temper tantrum, they get up, they walk on, right? Tomorrow they're not getting up knowing, with the notion that I need to behave this way because this might happen, right? No, they're clean. The emotion was clean. Until the point, right, where they are inhibited from expressing, right? And then we start creating this residue, right? And what we must realize when we are entrenched in emotion versus observing emotion, we are in a place of distortion, right? It's like looking in a distorted mirror from a fun house, right? It's what PTSD is like. We're living in this fun house and we're trying to figure out how to get out, right? Because everything around us is distorted, right? So that means these emotion detectors, these our alarm systems, so to speak, is not in proper working order, right? So think about that. That's not a problem. That means our system is not in working order, right? And what happens when we get entrenched in emotion? We suffer. We suffer, right? Because there's no fixing that. There's no fixing that story. And it overshadows every experience that we have, right? We know that we can have, 10 people in the room having the same exact experience, and each of them is going to walk away with a different story, right? With a different reference point for the story because they've connected back to something they already know, right? So, could it be possible that these emotions that we have been taught in the West to embody as who we are were really intended to be our alarm system, our notification system, our our motion detector within that field of information? Could it be possible, right? Now, what I've realized, right, is if our system is all tangled up and we've got all these loops on our timeline, right? And these motion detectors have been pushed up close to our bodies, right? We have no time or space to create an action, right? If we don't get notification until right here that there's movement, right, we're going to get hit. What I've noticed in working with women who have been through a lot of trauma, like when I'd be in the shelters or human trafficking, right, is they have their field pulled in really tight. And these emotion detectors are pasted all around their body. Everything is pulled in really close, right? Now, in a physical 3D way, we can prove this because I can sit them, on a chair in the middle of the room, have them close their eyes, and literally can get nose to nose with them without them being able to feel me moving around in their field, right? Their motion detectors don't start going off until I am inches from their body. We were not created that way, right? We were not created to be that vulnerable, right? We just didn't get the guidebook, right? So is it possible to, in a quantum way, create space between these motion detectors and the edge of our field so that we can be alerted and have time to shift our awareness, take in the information, create a conscious choice, and send that back, right? Is that possible, right? That is a human operating in their most optimal way, right? So in creating this space, right, we are creating space for you to turn reaction into action. We are creating space for you to interpret this situation back in that state of childhood wonderment as it is in this moment, right? We're creating space for that. So I'd like for you to sit back, close your eyes, and we're going to walk through this exercise.